Artists need to watch out when drawing from photos. I literally wrote the book on photographic distortion called The Lying Eye. So I'm going to show you how I approach drawing from photos and what knowledge I can bring to help escape the shortcomings of photo references. A camera lens that only has one eye, whereas we have two eyes. And so we have binocular vision. And so we see distance. We can discern when something is far away or closer to us very easily. But a camera's eye can't. It just sees 2D. Just sees up and down, left and right. And if there's any kind of depth, the camera's eye goes too far. So have a look at the hand in this photo and look at the foot. That hand extended should lay on top of that foot and be the same length from where the leg enters the foot down to the toe. And you can see it's much, much smaller than that. The foot also is basically the length of the face. And you can see that foot is way, way ostrich sized, too big for that head. So when you're drawing from photographs, don't let it be betrayed in your artwork, because people will forgive the photo, but they won't forgive your artwork. They'll always say that's a giant foot. Okay, so let's have a look at this wonderful model and find this gestural structure idea. Now, the back is doing this, but I like to find a tube shape that's doing this. I'm going to find that tube shape doing this and come up. Now, what I've done there is I have chased a rhythm. Now, here's a mnemonic for you. Rhythm helps your two hips move. So that's how you spell what's considered probably the hardest word in the English dictionary. There's no vowels in it. And so when you've got something weird like that, a mnemonic, you never forget it. And I use them a lot in my artworks. Now, the great thing about foreshortening is you can forget about really measuring. You don't have to worry about that so much. So what I tend to do is go high on the hip. If you go high hip, then all is forgiven. But if you go low hip, you lose. So go here, especially on the female figure. On the male figure, maybe not so much. So I want to feel that beautiful shape. Now that is a structure, it's a tube, but it has gesture to it. Gesture is the king of this little moment in time. Now here's the head, it's too small, so I'm going to make it bigger. So the head should fit into the rib cage, 1 2/3 at the back and 1 1/3 in the front. So just have a look at the head and ask yourself, is that so? And that's good enough. You know, some heads are big and some heads are small. So you don't have to really get attached to it. But what I do is I make sure that the female head is high at the back. So go up and it's feminine. So I'll give you that little circle every time I feel something is commonly feminine. So I have that beautiful gestural structure going on, feeling that curve through. And watch how things relate one side to the other. This is curving in, go over, this is curving out. So both these shapes are going in that direction. I want to pull through here and find that gluteus, coming down low. Give it a couple of goes. Use your pentimento. Powers of pentimento. And remember that the leg is thicker at the top and less so at the bottom. It's 2 heads long from this point, from the great trochanter. Now we all have a thing. I tend to make the legs too long, but that's okay. It always looks okay. If you make them too short, once again, it's not going to look so great. So err on the getting longer as you go down the body. But this foot, like I've said, is way too big. So I'm going to bring that down smaller. Find that hand. Now these are short drawings, so I'm not going to get into the hand too much. So I'm just going to do that quite quickly. Just find that shape. It's already a weird hand anyway with that finger going in like this. So you got to slow down for the hands. And when you're doing quick drawings, just get the outside and inside. And then if you've got time, you can come in and start to put the fingers in their places. A hand never really looks good until it's really being finessed. Until then, it just sticks. So there's you got like a robot shape. This is working. Go over here and make sure this is always slanting in the lower abs. And the way I find that great trochanter is basically I find the sacrum. Think of a high-waisted swimsuit. You can come up here for the high-waisted swimsuit, a mnemonic. So mnemonic, strange memory clue. And it's not a coincidence that those pants are that shape. They're built around the hip, and they're built to make the legs look longer. So that's ooh la la lingerie right there. So just finding this leg felt a little bit too thick, so I'm just going to bring it in. Once again, that's the pentimento. Get another shot at it. And when you're drawing the arm, think of the scapula. So the arm comes up and the scapula straightens out. And that's the point where the back starts to not look like a rib cage anymore, right at that point there. Because the scapula changes the world. Come around here and feel that rib cage going back in space. So if we look through the body, we'd be getting this. Let's go over to the other side, and then we've got that. So we've got this and this idea. There's moments that I love. I love this sartorius moment here that's going around to the other side, and how it links to this rectus femoris. It doesn't link to it anatomically, but as a beautiful gesture, it does. So we have that feeling there. It's coming down to pedestrian. I'm going to push it across here. So you have all that power to shift things around because you're an artist that a photographer doesn't have. They just have the shot and that's it. So I can pentimento that all the way across to here and draw through. Get that other leg in here. So you can see how many times I changed that to get what I wanted. And then we have here my favorite muscle of the body, the long head of the tricep, and we can take that down as a lovely Langevin curve right down to here onto the anconeus. So the more you draw, the more these shapes will appear, and then you'll get to love them. So we got the deltoid very, very long. On the female figure, it's not so pronounced as on the male figure, but it still has that straight top to it, right here. That's the acromion process. So we can go in and we can just soften things off. The eyes slope down, by the way, a little bit. So eyes coming down a little bit. That's for protection. So there. And I push this little tool to its limit. When I feel I can no longer work with it, that's the time when the pencil comes out. But I want to push it to its limit. I want to make sure that I have as much chance to change this around as I can. And once the pencil comes in, it's a little bit too indelible, meaning that it stays where it's put, whereas you can see me wiping back. Now, the main thing about how I draw, the sight size method is brilliant, it's wonderful. Never throw your tools away. But what can you do with it? Can you push it further? Well, that's what I'm doing here. And of course, you're going to break it a little bit. You're going to lose, like I say, accuracy, but you're going to gain beauty. So take everything that you learn and put it in place. Put it next to the things you've learned already and see where you can go with that. And that's how you create style. Take what you know and then extrapolate off it. See if you can make things longer, shorter, like Egon Shelly did. All the anatomy was elongated, but it all still made sense. Like I can take that leg and make it really long as the knee isn't up here, then we can do that. As long as it doesn't look like an error. And you can always tell. Always tell when the artist did it deliberately. It's all realistic and suddenly one thing's longer than the other by a long shot. It's obviously an error. But if your work is constantly, every time you draw there's a big head, then people know you're the big head artist or the short-legged artist. As long as it's consistent, then you're good. Just feeling that strange curve there because of this big foot. I'm just playing around there a little bit longer. So I'm aware of that big long foot, the gastrocnemius. And right here, look how thin that ankle is. So that's why I've been in and out of there. Let's pentimento a little bit more. I've been too conservative with it, trying to make the foot smaller, made the leg too long. So feel your way, get a feel for it. See what you've got. All right, feel this moment. And if you add to the top there, I do fantasy art. So I'm aware that if you go to the top, then you've got this beautiful, wonderful world of a high head, and now you've got regal beauty. I can see the center of the spine there coming through. And it's almost like a tangent. If two things are so close like that, you might decide to make it one thing. I'll just see how it goes. Let's see, there's the scapula there. But I do want that curve that comes with it. So I'd probably make the judgment there not to put in the line that's so close to the other side. And let's see, we can go with the obliques in here. And I do love this push though. So show your audience what you love by emphasizing it. Speaking of emphasizing what you love, I'm a lover of fantasy illustration. If you are too, you won't want to miss my new course, Fantasy Figure Drawing Wizardry. If you want to experience 20 plus hours of figure drawing under my tutelage, I'll make a wizard out of you yet. That's over at proko.com/Patrick Jones. We've also conjured a 20% discount for the pre-sale, so teleport over to it if you want those savings. This would be the time you step back and take a break, look at your art, if you're going to finish it, that is. I'm not going to do that. So I'll be happy with that. Push in, feel that tone, and now I'll use my art pencil. Which one's this? I'll use the soft one. Soft one's usually the smallest one because I've been using it. There we go. Always give it a little test on the side. So I'm going to come in here and get that scapula because I love it. And it gives me the first gesture. Now, this model is wearing clothes, so I'm going to take the clothes off and just imagine how that breast would fall. And I'll put a shadow underneath just to give it that little bit more intensity. And where the rib cage pulls in here, we get the 8th, 9th 10th. You get that big pull down to the 10th. I want to get up to this iliac crest and come around. But I don't want to show it because I'm making this a nude model now. So I want to go over here and feel this, the wonder of this curve, followed by a straight, followed by a curve. Now a lot happened there. So the female hips are quite boxy, like this. So we don't want that because it looks like a male structure. So I want to come up and feel the idea of the back. Let's go in there for another pentamento tri-edit. That's beautiful. Just in there. And the gluteus is actually really a pentamento that a little bit more. It's actually quite long. It comes all the way down to here. The gluteus attaches. What makes it look like it's shortened is there's a band that just stops it around here. But it does continue here. If you see a woman in a pencil skirt, just notice that shadow. It comes way down low. So the gluteus is attaching to the femur bone and also to the iliotibial band, which is a band that runs all the way down to the tibia from the ilium. And that's why it's called that. So iliotibial band. Sometimes just called the IT band. Love to push out for the calcaneus. Push in. If the foot's weird, just come off the reference like I've done there. Don't look at it. And just feel that moment. So sometimes you draw what you know rather than what you see. Just want to feel that gluteus in the shadow. And one of my favorite things to just mass. Just got that atmosphere. Now you can draw all the anatomy you want in there, but for this beautiful female figure, it's what you take out, not what you put in. So I want to feel that beauty rather than the reality of anatomy. Because anatomy can be gnarly and ugly. Like the teres major here is being crushed by the suit that this woman's wearing. So you won't see that crush if you make the figure naked. So be aware of that. Just feel it. Went a little bit off there, but that's fine. So when you get off and you get a little wobbly, it can actually be the best part of the drawing. A pentamento can give you such beautiful shapes. If you feel like everything's getting too stiff, just go into the hair. That'll give you lots of scope to get your gesture back. You can call your gesture your mojo if you like. And the digastric plane, we usually see a little bit of it here. And comic book artists just took it out. Just made a straight line. For years I didn't know what was going on because I was used to not seeing it. So the comic book artist just wanted to simplify the process. He didn't want to draw underneath the chin. Now this little frontalis here, if you want to make a princess, that pushes out. And here, everything you need to just get that classical look in quickly. And little pipe neck there. You don't want to make too much of the sternocleidomastoid on the female figure. But be aware that's what makes the wrinkles. This pushing against the trapezius. And so make sure that you've got rhythm. You're doing this, not that. So remember, you're an artist. You're not trying to copy what you see. You're trying to interpret it and make it more beautiful. You can make it more ugly if you want. Depends what your motivation is. But I want it to be beautiful. Anatomy of style. That thumb's awkward. I'll just throw it in. And, all of this is not really conducive to your hand being nice. But I tend to push the fingers out if I can and see if I can find something. She's going witchy-poo there. And that's a little bit of not thinking ahead, but let's say she's a witch there. Push that pressure in. But I do love the idea of a long finger like that. And then you have the knuckle coming down to the wrist. Now I've done a very, very long forearm there, and I'm aware of it. But that's fine. So when you're drawing lots of drawings, this is mileage. So the mistakes are actually your launching platform. So if you make a mistake like I've done there with a big hand and a long forearm, what that's telling you is to be a little bit more careful next time. And don't beat yourself up about it and say there's a learning experience. Let's just say that you sight size measured that and you got it perfect. That's great too, but you haven't learned as much as getting it wrong, because when you get it wrong, you really attend to it the next time. So it's a great way to grow your skills without the pressure of having to get everything right. So embrace what people call failure. And that means there's never failure. And you'll never forget it. You can come in here if you want and find that little sort of hot air balloon for the deltoid and start doing the anatomy and stuff. But then you'll get off the boil and start rendering. And for these short drawings, the idea of mileage is more important. So you can play around with finding those shapes, finding that constant idea of the bicep being lower than the tricep curve. So it's very subtle, but this is curved here, and this is slightly curved here. It's a female figure, so you're not really going to see much of a difference. But when you know there is, it makes all the difference. That beautiful rectus femoris coming down to the knee, for instance. You draw that enough times and you learn to understand that it's another one of those beautiful moments that you can revisit with confidence next time. So the more drawings you do are more important than the more renders you do. And don't get me wrong, renders are wonderful. It's a lovely way to meditate, but it's these short drawings that will bring your skills forward faster. And you can get to play with your pencil as well, all this beautiful stuff. Let's have a look at that calcaneus and the malleolus. So that's really weird on the photograph. So just doing my usual stuff of finding what a foot would normally look like tells me what's wrong with that foot. Without looking at the reference, I feel, well, where is that tarsal mass? Why is it not doing what it should do? Now I've got the added pressure here of Stan being in the booth with me, so I'm all under pressure though. It's this wonderful artist watching me. Got that pressure. He's watching. He says he's not watching. Who said that? So you've got that. And remember when you're in the life draw class as well, that everybody's under pressure of their peers. You're going, oh, I hope the guy next. Everyone seems to be drawing better than you are. So cancel that out as well, because everything is just about you and the paper, nothing else. So kill the ego. I've already said it before. Kill the ego. Otherwise, you'll just plummet. You'll just be thinking about how people perceive your work instead of the work itself. So I'm already a better artist just by thinking like that. Okay, so that's just a little demo on not being afraid. Not being afraid of the art. Hope that helps you out next time you draw from a photo that has something wonky about it. If you want more lessons from me, check out my other lesson on gestural structure. And stay tuned to Proko for my lesson on legs coming soon. But if you want more in-depth material from me, go take a look at my new course, Fantasy Figure Drawing Wizardry. You'll find it at proko.com/Patrick Jones.